Veterans reported today for the Carolina Panthers as training camp officially kicks off tomorrow. We have all the storylines to get you guys prepared. Let's go.
Brace yourself for the ultimate Carolina Panthers experience. Welcome to Two Growls One Roar, the podcast that hits harder than a Luke Kuechly tackle. We're diving deep into the heart of Panther Nation, bringing you unrivaled passion, insider takes, and pure gridiron fire. From Wilmington to the cosmos, this is your home for the fiercest football talk east or west of Charlotte.
Welcome in, folks, to another edition of the Two Growls One Roar podcast. Training camp is here, which means the content is back. The news, the storylines, the state of the Carolina Panthers, which I guess for me officially means, man, this thing ramps up. You guys know, if you've been here since day one, we've come a long way. Appreciate all the support along the way as we've gone from one episode per week to multiple episodes to 4 to 5 episodes. And I think we're going to continue that pace, trying to get you guys as much content and an analysis as possible. Now, today was notable. A few things that we're going to talk through: Dan Morgan's press conference opening up, Robert Hunt, and then Nick Scorton. So those were the pieces of the puzzle that we got to hear today. With that said, I don't think we could kick this thing off officially without talking about the news that came late this afternoon, and that is the status of Josey Jewell. So it shocked a lot of folks, a lot of fans, when we got the news that Josie Jewell was released by the Carolina Panthers. And initially, when I saw it come through, I didn't have time to digest it. It's, look at Panthers.com and have more context. But I was shocked, thinking, oh, maybe the Carolina Panthers are truly trusting in Trevin Wallace and Christian Rozeboom, and that's the direction where this team is going to go. Then we read into it and find out it has to do with the lingering concussion and just his state. And then later on in the day, Joe Person tweeted out that there was a discussion between both parties, Carolina Panthers and Josey Jewell and his team, trying to get to an agreement on a different contract, lower contract. I mean, to be honest, this is like a $4 million contract, $2 million guaranteed, roughly in that ballpark. So the Panthers aren't losing that much money, but the Carolina Panthers made a decision to go ahead and let Josey Jewell walk. Now, there is potential, possibly, that he could come back. Just the state of where things are and where he is, the Carolina Panthers decided it was time to move on, which now, if you are a Carolina Panthers fan, you sit back and you say, oh boy, it's about to get fun. A few things at play. Carolina Panthers made a decision not to bring back Shaq Thompson. And folks, I get it. I fully understand the Carolina Panthers front office decision not to bring Shaq Thompson back. But with that said, the Carolina Panthers are now in a bind. You wonder how long this lingered in the offseason. How long did the Carolina Panthers know that this was a possibility? The social media team posts pictures of Josey Jewell entering. You see him throughout the offseason program. Like, at what point did this all culminate into existence? Some people joke that Josey Jewell went straight into Dan Morgan's office, and that's where this all happened as soon as he got there. What it does is it does put the Carolina Panthers in a bind, hands down, not in a good position. And folks, you guys know, I personally was not a fan of the state of the linebacker room coming into the season as it was. And I think even with Josey Jewell, this was not a good unit. Being transparent with you guys, it wasn't great. I am the one that wanted Carolina Panthers to invest in an inside linebacker. Sure, they bring in 2 undrafted free agents, and they bring in Christian Rozeboom, but I don't think that they did enough for me personally. He's only 30 years old. Again, there is an opportunity for him to return. He appeared in 12 games last year, 97 tackles, had 1 interception, 3.5 sacks, 2 fumble recoveries. It was productive. He wasn't perfect, but at least filling in the gaps, battling the injuries. I don't think that he necessarily I thought he would be, I think he probably thought he would have Shaq Thompson beside him through the season, and it's Trevin Wallace. That puts the Carolina Panthers right now with the following linebacking group, if you guys have not been keeping track. So Christian Rozeboom, who likely fills in the starter position. Trevin Wallace, we talked about. Trevin Wallace, potentially your play caller. We'll see. I actually thought there would be a battle between Trevin and Christian Rozeboom for the position starting opposite of Josie Jewell, but now you probably have that tandem starting. You then have Claude Charles, who we saw a little bit last year, Jacoby Wyndham, and John Radigan. So the three of those guys saw some playing time last season. Not a lot, some of it on special teams. Carolina Panthers are just back in this rut, man. An unfortunate rut. I mean, it really is for this team, especially as you look at training camp, because there's just not that many linebackers out there. I joke that whenever these things happen, whether it's an injury, whether it's a cut or release, Panthers fans, I've done this before, but you go out to Spotrac or whatever free agent cap salary website, and you look at the best available players, and it's like, okay, that's great. There's a list of players that are available. There's a reason they're still available. There's a reason no other team has touched those players. And when you think about bringing somebody in, it has to be mutual. It has to be beneficial for both. There's usually older players, in most instances, veterans. So I just sit back and say, I don't know. Panthers had to have a plan. I mean, I hope they did have a plan in place to make this decision. Of course, not being able to reach an agreement by both sides. So that's your core. You now look at Charles and Radigan and Wyndham as your rotation, with the potential of the two undrafted free agents, which is Bam Martin Scott at the University of South Carolina, and to a CV Nomuru, another undrafted free agent, with the potential to make the roster. I mean, it does open things up. It does bring a little bit of competition, but you think about where the Panthers invested this past offseason, like we talk about on the defensive line, working with the defense, and really improving every position on that front, and then kind of, just kind of turning their head, maybe possibly ignoring what was going on here inside the linebacker room. Well, we're going to find out. We're going to find out soon. I mean, now there is potential, as we know, that things can happen. I don't know that there's going to be a trade market in place, but hey, you see what we got last year from Mike Jackson, 7th round pick. So you never know. There could be a sleeper out there looking for Dan Morgan, who's the linebacking guru, to work his magic. I saw some folks joking that Dan Morgan is probably the best linebacker in the Panthers organization right now. That's sad. It is. You think about the Carolina Panthers as an organization that's been founded on good inside linebackers throughout the history of this team. And just to be in the state that they are, not good. So we'll see how this thing plays out, man. It's early. What I would tell you, like, in all transparency, like, we gotta tone it back a little bit. It's early. It's very early in camp. I'm not saying that I'm not concerned. I am concerned, but at the same time, I'm not going to be one of the folks that throws away the season, says that it's over, that you can't manage it by any means. No. There's still time to figure it out. And I mean, I was getting kind of, shifting my thoughts on the outlook of the season a little bit. This does impact that, but I still think there's an opportunity here. Speaking of, as we transition and talk about the future for the Carolina Panthers in this season, playoff word did not really come about like when we heard Dan Morgan talk today, but I did think, went through my notes here for you guys. Maybe you did hear the presser, maybe you didn't. I wanted to put out as best I could some of the news surrounding what we heard from Dan Morgan today. So during his address to the media, he did articulate some of the vision and expectations looking forward. So he said, as we begin the season, I just want to reaffirm our commitment to building a smart, tough, passionate, competitive, resilient, and adaptable team. We aim to trust our process, be disciplined, and build a team that can sustain over time. Further elaborated on this, saying, over the offseason, we made targeted upgrades to our roster, adding key pieces on both sides of the ball to address our needs, create more dynamic options offensively and defensively. While still in the process, we believe these moves, combined with our existing talent, veteran leadership, and the development of our young players, position us well for the challenges ahead. The season goals are clear: improve our consistency and develop our young core. Season goal, nothing in there as of now talking about playoffs as an expectation. And Dan Morgan was asked about that as he went through, and someone said, "Hey, you didn't mention playoffs as one of your goals." And and I think it's smart, if we're being honest. Like, it's one thing internally to talk playoffs. Like, we know that internally they're going to talk about making the playoffs, but just the message that you're going to portray externally, it can bite you in the butt. And I mean, that's just either way it goes, it can bite you in the butt. And so I'm okay with them taking that and keeping it internally. But they're talking about building a team that can sustain over time, developing a young core. You just think about where this team is. And again, coming off the 5-12 record, I mean, it's here, folks. Cannot believe that football is officially back. You think about the late season surge, where this team sits, and you just think, okay, well, maybe 2026 is possibly a better position for the Carolina Panthers to be in, which I think is true. But I do think they're going to be a competitive team this year. I still firmly believe that. I think they've got the pieces. They found some stuff last year. Can we get it to gel? And if they can get it to gel and all things are clicking on all cylinders, we can talk about making a late season push and where we want to be. You think about really what they did. Morgan acknowledged the past depth challenges. So he said, we had to make a lot of moves. Our depth wasn't very good last year at this time. And again, did temper some expectations, but that doesn't mean this year that we're stacked and we're ready to roll. Still need to be aggressive. Aggressiveness doesn't always mean action either. So I don't know. We'll see how this plays out. I will say one of the things that kind of surprised me a little bit, he was questioned about his confidence in Bryce Young based off of how he finished and, looking at him this year compared to last year. And he said it hasn't changed, like his perception. But to me, it has. Like, that's the one thing, like, I get the robotic answers sometimes and what you're going to be saying up there. Like, you got to, really coach yourself on what's going to be said, and you practice it, and you want to give the right answer. But when asked about Bryce Young, man, I think if I was the GM, if I'm head coach Dave Canales, someone asked me as a fan, how do I feel about Bryce Young this year in comparison to last year at this time? We didn't know Bryce Young was that guy. We didn't. And I think that's a testament to how he finished, that's what was asked. He finished strong. He played well. And he showed you that he is the future of the franchise. You did not know that last season at this point. You hoped it. You thought it would get there. And it was a terrible performance and things went off the rails, but you didn't know it. So I think you should feel 10 times more confident in this version of Bryce Young than what you're seeing. And that's just me. Again, I try not to overanalyze some of what's said as we go through this process, but that thing stuck out to me. The other thing, and this is the Panthers.com push, this is Dan Morgan now saying it, there's a big emphasis on the philosophy of this being a player-led organization. You guys have been around, or maybe you haven't. Each year there's some buzzwords, collaboration, and they are very focused on the message that they want the public to know or think or see about them, the media. And this year, right before this, we get this Panthers.com article that everything is players-led, a push for it to be players-led, which those things are, like, good football teams are players-led. Players taking charge, being able to run things with, push things through. Like, those are critical pieces to this, but that was emphasized by Dan Morgan. It was asked by one of the Panthers.com reporters, writers around the situation. I just found that, someone that listens to these things multiple times and follows them and hears it, that's one thing that stuck out to me. Now, the positive news, if we can get there, Derek Brown received clearance to begin. He's fully cleared. His workload will be managed in the early stages. Sam Martin, we know, was placed on the non-football injury list. Sounds like he's going to be okay. They're going to use a jugs machine. They're not bringing in an additional punter. So good news there for the Panthers and where they sit with the specialist group. And then Bobby Brown III was also placed on the non-football injury list. And that his also was a hamstring, but sounds like he's going to be okay as well. So no major concerns outside, of course, Josie Jewell no longer being here, which is big. I mean, that is a big shakeup for the Panthers organization to kind of figure out what's going to happen. So we're starting to hear the players, get to hear from coaches. Like this is just where, off season's here, man, and training camps among off season past. But training camp is here. It's among us. So we're going to get to hear from folks. So we did get to hear from Nick Scorton, and honestly, a nice. I think it was good to put him out there, especially when there's all this conversation about second round picks and second round picks holding out, and just the state of where things fit in. I did give a lot of praise to the veterans here. Patrick Jones, DJ, one of the guys kind of leading the charge to help them and working his way through. He did say that he did stay in Charlotte throughout the break, getting to know Charlotte. He emphasized the museums, the food, the trails and walking, that he loved to go through and do those things if you're into understanding what they do. And I guess he said he had a particular cat, a Maine Coon kitten, which can reach up to 35 pounds. So I guess if you're into that stuff, and he does have a mini long-haired Dotson who's going to join him. He said his brother's watching him. But I think for us as Carolina Panthers fans, we're glad that he is here. I mean, yes, we need this pass rush to figure it out. So I'm excited for Nick Scorton to actually see him, get him in pads. He did talk about his weight. We all know when he talked about his time between Purdue and Texas A&M, the weight fluctuation, but I think he said he's in the around 267, 265 range, which is 265, which is around the ideal playing weight that he wants to play at. He did dip down to like 257. Of course, he's been up to 280. So he's got a good fit for where he thinks he can play as a run defender and a pass rusher. So, I mean, really, I can't wait to get him out there. We also heard from Robert Hunt, and if you have not gone back and watched the Robert Hunt presser, it's a good one. I think this guy's a clear leader on the offensive side of the football for folks. Clear leader on the team, actually, in general. I mean, you look at what he's been able to do, making it to the Pro Bowl, and I know the Pro Bowl's much different now, the way all this thing plays out and who gets it in the voting and people opting out and things like that. But, I mean, one of the best guards in the NFL, money well spent for the Carolina Panthers, and I do think he is an anchor, as we do talk about and buy into the player-led philosophy that's kind of being touted by the Carolina Panthers, that like he does live up to that in leading the charge. One of the things, and I don't think there was anything like when you hear from a lot of the linemen, there's not too much you're going to get. I mean, you get his personality, which is cool. He did like a fake basketball jump shot thing at the end. But and one of the things that was funny to me is David Newton of ESPN asked a question in regards to what he thought about Dave Canales and managing Bryce Young and the benching. And the Robert Hunt basically threw him under the bus, David Newton of ESPN, and was practically like, dude, you lost your mind. I'm not answering that question. He literally said, if you go back and watch it, I can't hear you. What? It went through one ear and out the other. It's above my pay grade. So I honestly appreciated that. I feel like, I mean, you guys know, if you follow the team closely, it's no knock on David Newton as a person. I met him at training camp last year, but I think for how he covers the team, there's a lot of folks that just don't have a good viewpoint of him, and I think the players probably fed up just as much, like if we're being honest. So Anyways, folks, I believe. Oh, wait, there is one other notable piece on Panthers.com for the transaction wire. Actually, two things I'm going to cover with you guys. Number one, so with the release of Josie Jewell, the Panthers did bring in another tight end, although it was not Noah Fant, who we thought maybe would be the one that they bring in. It was Tyler Mabry. So Tyler Mabry does have a connection to Dave Canales, does have a connection to McPherson, the tight ends coach. So he was brought in to replace. As I pulled this up, sorry, he was basically Josie Jewell's the transaction that was the opposite of that, and I think that was needed. We did get an update on Tommy Trimble as well. Sounds like things have progressed well with the surgery, but it is going to be some time, which we knew and expected, and I think that's why the Panthers are doing their due diligence. I personally would be a fan of the Panthers still picking up the phone for Font. Just me. Like, you can never have too much, but now when you look at the state of the Panthers, which now they may have like $20 million in cap space roughly, and I guess with Scourton maybe it's around 18 or 19, so sitting in that range. I still think linebacker has to be in the cards now. Cornerback and safety still in the mix. Now, if you were one of the Carolina Panthers fans that were holding out in hopes that maybe, just maybe, the Carolina Panthers were going to bring in Julian Blackmon. Well, unfortunately, that's not going to happen, as he is signing with the New Orleans Saints. That was a name that we've been watching. And with Tyrann Mathieu, who was with the Saints, retiring, it put them in a position, or put the Carolina Panthers in a position to see where this thing plays out, man. So kind of unfortunate for us. I do think it would have been nice to have Julian Blackmon here. Now the pickings are truly slim for what the Carolina Panthers can potentially do. So I don't know. Anyways, folks, man, we're going to have you covered all training camp long with as much information as we can share. We'll start getting into roster breakdowns. I mean, we've already broken down the roster, but 53-man roster projections. And keep this thing rolling, man, with all the news, rumors, and latest information that we get. As always, this is Carolina Dad.